Hello and welcome to the NUFC360 Podcast. As you can see, a couple of people missing, either because they've had enough or they're sick of the results, or they've been told that we can't look back more than 18 months now. But we've got Matt back from, his little Jones, and we've also got the Swedish Magpie back fresh from his trip to London.
Yeah. What an experience.
Yeah, fly over, see Newcastle lose, and
yeah. At least I saw Trafalgar Square and was there, so that's always something.
Yeah, but you can see that anytime. You don't.
Nah.
Might not be as full as Geordie's, but you can see it
exactly.
anytime. It's there every single day. It doesn't just turn up for Newcastle. What we'll do is we'll go straight into the first topic. As much as I don't really want to be doing this, because it sounds negative, but it is the reality of what we're facing, especially probably since the turn of the year, and that is the fact that our forward line is failing. In that, if you look at where we are in terms of the league, and that, I think it's 3 goals, in a long period in terms of the games in that aspect. You look at the fact that Maximin isn't scoring, Miggy has lost like his scoring touch, Wilson seems to have lost that as well. So the big question is, what's the answer? We'll go with Max because we know exactly what he wants to say.
Yeah, I'd say Stark Isak is the easiest answer to that. I think every time he's come on, he's been electric and he's created stuff from nothing. I also think a solution would be, I heard this from other channels, that we've been found out by other opponents. We tend to attack from our right because Trippier is there and he's like our biggest playmaker alongside Bruno. So for me also would be to maybe put on target for Dan Burn to give us a threat on the left side as well, because every time our left winger comes with ball, even if it's St. Maximin or as we saw Gordon, he's pretty much alone against the back 4 of the opponents. And if we had someone to support the winger like we have on the other side with Amron and Trippier, it would be something maybe more dangerous, and teams wouldn't be able to as easily focus on one side and be worried about both sides also.
Matt?
Yeah, I'd agree with Max. I think Callum Wilson needs to come out the team now. It's been quite a few weeks, and he hasn't been quite up to it. Seemed like he put all of his effort into making that World Cup squad, and since the World Cup, he just hasn't been the same player. I think Isak needs to come into the team. There needs to be a bit of a change of personnel alongside Wilson. There needs to be, I think Gordon needs to be playing a regular fixture of games. I think Maximum needs to have a good run in the team. We just seem a bit stale, and I don't think there's one correct answer to it. I think there's loads of different things that just aren't going our way at the minute. But I'm sure Eddie Howe will get it right eventually.
So in your mindset, you're saying Gordon needs to run the games, you're saying Isak needs to run the games. So if we're looking at this, are you saying that both Wilson and Mickey need to be dropped to the bench for a period?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, possibly I do, yeah. Miggy's been great this season, but, if your last 6 or 7 games haven't been quite up to the standards of what they were, you surely have to start looking at, the rest of your squad and seeing what else you can do and who else you can bring in and add some fresh legs, just add, some fresh ideas to the squad. It just seems to be like Eddie Howe sticks with his favourites at the moment, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's worked up until the past few months, but now it's really got to test him to see what other ideas he's got up his sleeve. What can he do with the squad that he's got? Because we definitely need some sort of change, and it needs to happen sooner rather than later. Especially if we're not taking our chances like we didn't against Manchester City, because we had a few.
Given that you've got Joe Linton out for the next 2 games, could that be a point where you may see a difference in terms of the way that we set up? Because you're looking at that, and you could look at the fact that we made stick Bruno and Sean Longstaff as your two midfielders, and then put so like a 4-2-3-1. Now that's either putting Isak as the number 10 or sticking him straight up there as the striker. You've got Willock who could maybe come in and do something. You've got, like you said, Gordon. You've got Maxi on there.
It's a good point, Mark. You've got 3 players there who could all go in the 10. I would have probably said, put Willock in there, but you saw Gordon go in there. I think it was away at Bournemouth, was it? Where he went into the 10, and then Isak went in the 10 when in the final, and he was our best player. So personally, I would have liked to see Isak in the 10, but that means Wilson would have to stay in the team for obvious reasons, because we don't have another striker, because we're a bit short in that department. So yeah, possibly Gordon. I'd like to see Gordon in that 10 area and playing Isak just in front of him.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, because Isak's best season at Real Sociedad came when he played the 4-2-3-1, and he had Martin Odegaard behind him. So a number 10 behind him, I'm leaning towards having Almiron there, just because he did play there for Atlanta for a long time, and he has played there once or twice for us. And I don't think
10.
Yeah, but the game that sticks out for me is the West Bromwich Cup game, which he scored in with
wearing the orange kit.
Yeah, exactly. He had a really good game at number 10.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Was that not a fluke under Steve Bruce?
Yeah, it might be. But I also like the fact of having a right-footed player at right winger with like Gordon or Saint-Maximin, who can put a cross in directly instead of cutting back to his left all the time, which is a bit annoying sometimes.
The good thing as well about those 3 players, you've got Gordon, Willock, and Isak. They all love to turn and drive at the opponent's defences. They all 3 of them do it, and they do it very well. So personally, I'd be happy with any of those 3 in and around that area.
I'd rather see Willock as a number 10, primarily because when he came in and had his longest run in terms of scoring goals, that's the position he was playing at.
Yeah.
With us, he was in that number 10 role, and you just think it suits him in that aspect. You can then have Saint-Maximin on the left, you can then put Gordon on the right. I just think maybe Miggy does it, and this will probably come into what we're going to say with the next one, is maybe it's because we are relying on them, and maybe because we're sticking with a certain 11, that teams are finding us out, and they're going, right, well, we know how Miggy plays. Yeah, we know how. Mickey and Trippier team up. So they know that. They know how Dan Burn will play. As much as they like to know how Saint-Maximin. But the fact is, if we are playing Saint-Maximin, you're probably going to find that teams will probably try and close them out. But by doing that, you're then opening up space, for others to come in, because obviously the team, there'll be a focus on Maximin. So I just think in that aspect, it's also quite fluid and flexible. So if Isak floats it off to the right, Gordon can come into the forward line in that aspect. So can Saint-Maximin and that. So you've basically got a very fluid, like Will can drop off to the left, So it's just one of those ones of having a fluid front line where you're not going to be constant. And the same as Maxi can go over and swap with Gordon. So it's just one of those things of, if you've got that fluidity across your front line, you're not going to be in the position where the teams are going to know what to do, because if you start, let's say, with Gordon down the right, but you're not getting much luck, mark a move at the left, just switch over and see whether or not you get any better luck that way, because you're constantly changing. And therefore, if you're constantly doing that, it's difficult for the full-backs of the opposition, because they don't know who they're going to be up against. And they might get used to playing against that, and then next thing you know, you're switching back, and then they've got to think in that aspect. I do also think, and I know it's saying this, but I think Saint-Maximin doesn't look as good when he's with Dan Burn.
No, he does not.
But I also think Dan Burn doesn't necessarily match up in that sort of game. And I think that's just where the issue is. I think Dan Burn's probably been found out as well. But that's something that we'll move on to and come on to.
Mark, though, adding on that point, Mark, you've got two opposites there, haven't you? You've got, say, Maximum, who doesn't really get back, and he's not his strongest part of his game defending. And then you've got Dan Burn, who's probably not the strongest part of his game, he's attacking. So you've got two complete opposites there, and it seems like that's never really worked fluidly, if that makes sense. That's never really worked, and I don't think that ever will work. Obviously, I'm not going to rule it out, but it just doesn't seem like it. They're not the type of personnel that could, coincide together. Whereas if you have Matt Target at left back, maybe that could help out, say, Maximum a lot more.
I agree, Matt.
Well, that is the point that I was putting in, and it's probably an argument that I've said right from along. Because the issue that you have with Trippier is, let's say Mickey floats in, like, as he sometimes does. Trippier's the one that overlaps. Yeah. And that's what you've got with that. So it's difficult to defend against, but you don't have that on the left-hand side.
Exactly.
Now, I know a lot of people, we've been linked with Kieran Tierney. To be honest, if he's fit, if he can stay fit, crack and sign him, but it's the injury worries that what's getting me. But that's the type of player that you want to be looking at. An attacking fullback that, let's say, if Maxi does want to then drift in, you've got the overlapping left back who can go to the touchline and that, and it just makes things easier in that aspect of it.
Yeah, and as I said, Mark, when they focus on some Maximum with three or four players and they crowd him out, he needs support from someone, and often that's the fullback. And if Dan Burn is so far back, he can't give him support and then if he cuts it back to Dan Burn, he's so far back, it doesn't really matter what happens in the attacking sense. So yeah, I agree. It's someone, I think Matt Target, if he's fit enough to play on Sunday, I would really like to see him back in his starting 11.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him in the and this is the thing, because if you've got like under 23 competitions, which I think we did even yesterday, why not stick Matt Target in that, get him a little bit of game time to get him in the position? Otherwise, sticking him on towards the end of a game isn't going to really do much on that aspect. I'm not going to read much into, I think people were probably reading too much into the Man City result. 2-0 is and this is what we need to look at. Not just the 80 months, but going right the way through there. We've got an awful record at the Etihad, and quite a lot of times it's 4-5s. If we just look, let's say last season we lost 5-0 there.
Yeah,
we lost
Mark,
2.
Apart from not taking chances, we played quite well. We have been playing okay. We haven't looked like we're going to ship loads of goals.
Yeah, it was defensively poor, because I think defensive errors cost with the 2 goals, and again the forward line cost us in that aspect of it. But we stayed in a game, and this is the problem. To be still in a game against Man City at Man City, and this is the thing, on their bench was worth £250 million. There's a level of reality there where we need to look at and go, we're nowhere near that. But that, again, is the point that I'll come on to later on that aspect of it. Now, as Edwin mentioned, the Man City game. The Man City game was the 3rd game in a row that we've lost 2-0, 2 in the league, 1 in the cup final. Now, this is obviously a stat which we did since Christmas, and looks back at and seen what the form was. Since obviously the World Cup break, there's a start and change in there. Obviously before the World Cup, played 15, won 8, drew 6, lost 1. After the World Cup, we've played 9, won only 2, drew 5, and lost 2.
A couple of that is probably doesn't help with Callum Wilson, because his form's obviously massively dropped off since the World Cup. So that probably is one of the main reasons, and also the fact that we've played some of the better teams in the league. Obviously we played Manchester City, we've played Liverpool, and they're 2 losses. The rest we haven't actually lost.
Had before the World Cup.
What's that? Yeah, we had played them, but we lost against Liverpool, which is
but we drew against Manchester City.
But we also shipped 3 against them.
We beat Chelsea, we beat Spurs.
I think the important part here is all the draws. Is what that bugs me out. There's still like, what is it, 10? Was it 10 draws?
Yeah, so the draw against Leeds, the draw against my mind went completely blank. West Ham.
But there's a lot of mid-table teams or lower league table teams that we have drawn against, and those are the games where we've seen the signs of what's come now in this 3 last games where we played all right, we have the ball, but we can't score goals or enough goals to win the games. And we've seen this coming. We just not really got there yet, because we had these wins. We won like 4-1, 5-1. What the hell was happening here? And then now it's started to show more and more how that maybe we need to figure something out, do something different, because we're drawing too much, or now we're even losing because we depend on really much on our defensive records to previous games, and now we can't keep that even. So
in terms of the losses, it's the 3 losses that we've had. I'm not panicking.
No, they're not so
in
bad
that aspect, because you look at that and you're going, well, one was against a Liverpool side which look as if they're on getting back to what they should be, and in terms of the money in their squad, you'd expect that. A Man U side that we honestly just got at the wrong time in terms of form, because they've just been on fire, with the exception of Sunday. But and then obviously you look at the Man City, and Man City's just Man City,
It is difficult games, of course, yes.
I know, you look at that. You look at the fact that we didn't actually let Erling Haaland score.
Yeah. Now we played good in 2 of those.
Which is the one thing which I'm actually going to say with regards to well done to Jamal Lascelles, because I thought he came in and had a really, really good game and really, really coped well with Erling Haaland.
I mean, to not play for a couple of months and then to get chucked straight in away at Man City and cope with the best striker in the league, he's done really well.
Exactly. And that's the thing, I actually thought we coped well. Yeah, the majority of the time was just a couple of defensive, frailties and mistakes that ended up costing them in the mistake for both goals and that. But it's what's going to happen, you're not going to be able to do that. The slightest mistake against a side like Man City, they're just going to punish you. But like I said, I don't think 2-0's the vast amount. I think the main concern that we're looking at is that we now seem to be shipping more goals in terms of a consistency aspect of it than what we had previously, and we're now scoring less goals or no goals at all in games, and that's obviously where the concerning aspect of it is because if you're not keeping balls out the back of your net and you're not scoring goals, things aren't going to be good for you. Now you look at that and you look at our next 4 fixtures, which are Wolves at home, Forest away, Man U at home, and then West Ham away. You're looking at that and going, as a run, with the exception maybe the Man U game, it's a run that realistically we should be taking advantage of and should be taking at least, I would say, 7 points out of those games. Yeah,
if we want to be competing for Europe, I think we at least have to get 2 wins.
But no, this isn't again about competing for Europe. This is just about Newcastle as a club and the squad that we've got. This is what we should be aiming for.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the problem is, and this is where when people say, it's just one of those things of where you look at it and everyone seems to be focused on Europe, predominantly because we did so well. And I think that's where the issue is and where some of the negativity is coming from, in the fact that because we did so well and because we went into the World Cup in 3rd, that everyone just expected that we'd be getting Champions League. And then now that we've dropped down to 6th, everyone's going, oh, well, this is poor. Whereas if we'd maybe started poor, let's say if it had been a role reversal, we'd started the season poor, but have now picked up and we were sitting 6th after being on a good run, the mindset would be completely different. And that's what we need. And I just think it's one of those things of let's not focus too much on Europe, because the fact that remain, we are very, very early on in terms of the rebuild of this club, the rebuild of the squad, and the journey that we're going to be on. And let's not rush ahead and make it, and do that, because this is the problem that we probably had under Mike Ashley when we did that one season where we finished 5th, which was an absolute fluke, but then we didn't invest and we ended up going back into a relegation battle because we didn't have the squad capable enough of doing a European run and also competing in the
That's
domestic
sort of what the problem
competitions.
is here, Mark, isn't it? We've gone through this. Well, up until a couple of months ago, we got up to third place and second place, and we were playing well with the squad we have. But then, all of a sudden, when you start running out of ideas, you need to look at your squad depth. And I've said it before, we're a couple of windows behind. We're 10 years behind Man City.
You also look at the fact that in terms of the cup runs, we haven't been playing weekend side in the cup, which you would have previously. So this is you're relying on a very core period, and this is what's going to come into the next aspect of it. And that's where the issue is with the squad, and that's why I think there needs to be a level of reality. Yeah, if we finish outside of the European spot, it's gonna feel hard, but as long as we're finishing in the top half of the table, then I
disagree.
Well, no, but if we finish in the top half of the table still, and we've at no point in this season went below it, and we've never been in the bottom half, then that is a massive improvement, because last season we were in a relegation battle.
Yeah, it is. But
the fact of where we finished seemed to just sort of like paper over those cracks. We were in a relegation battle. Even at this point last season, we were in a relegation battle. So even if we finish anywhere between 10th and 7th, that's still an improvement to us, because we'll have improved.
Yeah, of course.
So there is that aspect of it.
The season, I said the cup run in Europa, or we're just finishing mid-table is comfortable, and we have the cup run. But now I also think we have been challenging for Europe for half the season, and I think still.
But then that's the problem. But that's the problem. If we flipped it over and it was the other way.
Yeah, but it's not like that now.
No, I understand that, but that's where I just think, in that aspect of it. Johnson, what do you guys think about whether a more gradual growth, i.e. Europa, not Champions League, will give us more time to get sponsorship deals done, then build a squad, rather than a huge overhaul? I'll answer that one first in that aspect of it. Sponsorship deals can be actually built with gradients in mind there. So if we look at, let's say, doing a sponsorship deal over a period of, let's say, 5 years, there could be costs to it that say, right, okay, well, the sponsorship deal is this much if we're in where we are. Let's say the Europa League, it's this much. Well, let's say the Europa Conference is 7. It's this much if we get into the Europa League. It's then this much if we get into the Champions League. So you can already have those caveats built into sponsorship deals, to where the costs increase depending on what competition we're in, or bonuses and stuff like that. So financial structures like that can be built into that. I think where we need to look at more so, and it's not just necessarily on the sponsorship, because that's one side of it. You're also looking at the fact of, I don't think a squad overhaul is necessarily something that we're going to need to do. What we do need to do is obviously get rid of players that have probably got high wages on that will help in terms of the FFP aspect of it. But to go straight from no football, like no European football, being in a relegation battle, to Champions League, I think would be a massive jump, and could end up hurting us more. Whereas if we do it gradually, whether or not it's the Europa Conference League or the Europa League, and then improve the squad again, because I think it's even Dan Ashford says it's going to take 2 summer transfer windows to get us to where we probably need to be. So let's do this gradually. Again, I know, the dreams of the Champions League are great, but any European football would be great. I just think maybe this Champions League is a little bit too soon for us. And let's start with some level of European football. You never know, with the level of European football that we might get outside of the Champions League, we might actually play a game in Sweden. So Max might actually be able to go and see a game without having to travel.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I don't believe Champions League is possible right now for us. It was nice to see us up there, and but I think reality has kind of set in now. But I also think we should get the Europa League or Europa Conference League, doesn't matter. But at least one of the two, I think, right now, for like, we compare ourselves then to the teams who are in those positions right now. It's Brentford, Fulham, and Brighton. I don't think we have a worse squad than any of those teams. So we should realistically, in my opinion, be able to fight for those places, even though it's a giant leap from battling relegation last season, of course. But I still think from the start of the season we had, and with the players we have, I think it's totally acceptable to not maybe demand, but at least expect us to get to some sort of Europe. And I think, as you said, Champions League would probably be a big jump for us. So Europa League or the Conference League might be more suitable for our squad and our ability to refresh and grow our squad with better players in the summer because of the FFP. So yeah, Europa League would be, for me, really good.
Yeah, well, as it stands, it's Spurs in fourth, played 26 games on 45 points. Liverpool fifth, playing 25 games on 42 points. Us sixth, playing 24 games on 41 points. So we'll see if our game in hand, if we win that, we're above Liverpool. So yeah, if we win the two in hand, we're above Spurs. So in that aspect, the Champions League is still possible. You then look at the fact that we've got Fulham on 26 on 39. So Fulham's in seventh, but they've played 2 games more than us. So you've then got Brighton on 38, but they've only played 23, so they've played 1 game less than us. So Brighton, I think, is probably a team that I would probably look at maybe more so than the Brentfords and Fulhams as more of a threat. Then you've got Chelsea, who's played 25 games and are on 34 points, and they're in 10th.
Yeah, so Brighton.
So you'd look at that and think, realistically, are the European competitions between Brighton, Liverpool, us, and Spurs in terms of where you're going to be looking at fighting out there? Yeah, Fulham and Brentford are still going to be around there, but whether or not it's something that they'll be able to continue with it in that aspect. But you just look at that and you just think we'll probably and it's most likely that one of the two the teams that will finish in the top 4 will most likely be in the cup, the FA Cup final, which will then give that extra European spot in the league, which means it'll be anyone from the top 7 that'll be getting into Europe. So Matt, from your aspect, in your mindset, how concerning is the form, and do you think it's something that will turn around and we will be in a position to get, or to stay in the European positions?
Sure, you look at the high levels we play at this season. That's not a coincidence. You don't play at those high levels for month after month and then all of a sudden just implode and they're no good. Yes, you can have a purple patch like Miggy did, absolutely, but to win as many games and to not lose that many games in the space of a year, that comes down to a good team ethic, good players, good management, good squad, and to be at a high level like that. Yes, we've dipped in form, but why can't we get back? It would be a bit disappointing if we didn't get Europa. I mean, it would. In hindsight, if you take it back a year, you would have took it all day. But to be in the Champions League spots for so long, or to be in and around there, and then gradually just drop off, that would be hard to take and it would be disappointing because we've been playing at these high levels. So why can't we keep playing at these high levels? Yes, I get players need to come out. Absolutely, people need to have a rest, and that's where I think we're lacking more than anything. We're just lacking on squad depth. We're lacking on different ideas. Whereas these other teams have got squad depth. They've got, these players who have been around the block, the top players who have played for these top teams. We're still, with no disrespect to Jacob Murphy, we've still got these players on the bench. Matt Ritchie, he's great in the squad. Paul Dummett, they're great players to have in the changing room and stuff. But when it comes to actually making an impact on the pitch, Tottenham and all these teams have got these players we haven't yet. So that's where I think we're going to struggle, and where we have been struggling. When we've got these players at our disposal, then I don't think a major dip in form would ever happen again. I think it'd just be a bit like that. At the minute, it seems to have been like that for the past year, and the past 3 months, it's just gone like that. But that's just in our mindset. We've only lost twice. That's the level we've been playing at, and it's just, that's my rant over.
Just to correct you, we've lost 3 times.
3 times. Well, twice since the World Cup. That's what I'm talking about.
Correct.
Yeah, nice way of getting out of that, but yeah, I'm sure you meant twice all season.
I knew what I meant, Mark. Cheers, mate.
We all knew what you meant, but nice try to dig out of it. John Candy has put a big point, and then it links into what our final topic is how's intense style plus Europa League games would be a big issue for the squad. Need more than 15 players that can start. That's the point that I think we were looking at with in terms of the squad depth reality and just maybe having that bit of a reality check and looking at the fact that we aren't a squad like Man City or Liverpool or Spurs or Man U or Arsenal or Chelsea, even for that matter, even though Chelsea do seem to be struggling. Yeah.
That's a good point John's made, though, because Eddie Howe's intense, isn't he?
Exactly, but
Very
even now, we don't have the squad depth in that. Yeah, and this is my problem. Yeah, you look at Trippier. Trippier's seem to have a dip in form, but the poor fella's having to play nearly every single game. He can't be rotated out. Yeah, because simple fact is, whether or not we like it or not, Manchu isn't good enough. Whilst we've signed Jacob Ashby, he's still in the young stage, and I just don't think he's ready from that aspect of it. Obviously, Emil Kraft's out injured. Seems to be an issue with Swedish players that just seem to get injuries.
Miss Emil Kraft. That's something I never thought I'd hear.
You then look at the fact that obviously Matt Targett was out injured. Yeah, Jamal Lewis isn't up to it. Paul Dummett's always injured. So then obviously you then sticking a centre back in Dan Burn out at left back. And obviously he's then having to play all those games and you can't rotate. Then because of that, and you're looking at that, you've got Botman and Shaw who are having to play all these games. So yeah, you can't rotate there. So yeah, this is just, and then if obviously look at the midfield, yeah, we've let Shelby go and that. So you're then looking at the fact that you've got Bruno, Joelin, and Willock and Longstaff. So you've got 4 midfielders playing for 3. So you can't rotate there. And if you look at those that we're sticking out on the bench, as you said, it's going to be either Paul Dummett or Jamal Lewis in terms of your left backs. It's going to be Lascelles as your centre back. It's going to be Mancur as your right back. You're then looking at your Jacob Murphy, Matt Ritchie, Elliot Anderson, especially for this week because obviously Will could probably have to come into the team. You then look at the fact that it's going to be either Isak or Wilson in terms of your front line that you're looking at. Obviously, Freitas has been told to go and play with the reserves because he doesn't have a squad position here. Obviously, Great Anthony Gordon's came in, but you're just looking at that, and that's the problem when you're sometimes looking at the bench. You're going, well, what can we do? And I think that's in lies where the problem is because I think it probably is a case. Yeah, luckily, I do think we've got Isak in a good level of performance that he probably deserves to come in for Callum Wilson. And you've got Anthony Gordon who can come in for either Maxi or Miggy. But you're then struggling in terms of the midfield. You then struggle when you go further back to the back line. And who can you swap Trippier out for if you need the rest? You can't. And that's where the issue's coming from. And I think it may be the case that because of how intense we do play, it was great going up to the World Cup, but then we're now in a position now where we've come back from the World Cup. We've been playing all these league games, which is in a more condensed period because we've had to stop for the World Cup. We've then had cup competitions on top of that. And we're now probably seeing the reality of the fact that we are picking up maybe knocks and niggles in that aspect of it. We are going to have, like we did with Joelin, who's now out suspended and that puts a pressure on the squad as well. So I just think in that aspect of it, we need to maybe just be a little bit more mindful of the fact that, yes, it's great to be where we are, and it's great to see the performances that we've had, but given the style of play that we need to be, we maybe need to just dial that down a little bit and just realise that, yeah, we're maybe not in as strong as a position as we maybe thought we were squad-wise. And the fact that obviously these players, whilst great at doing what they've been able to do, are going to need some level of rotation because otherwise it's just going to burn out.
I think it is important as well that we do qualify, because these players that we want European football, like John made another good point of, if we don't finish in European spots and we don't attract these players who want to play European football, could we end up dropping off and becoming similar to West Ham or finishing in the bottom half? You just don't know what could happen. You might as well take the opportunity we both have you get to have the chance to sign these better players who want to play in Europe, because if not, it could end up costing you.
This was a point that was made. I genuinely think Bruno is playing through the pain barrier and through an injury with that ankle purely because we have no depth. I'd like to hope that. I don't think it's something that Eddie Howe and the medical staff would do. But yeah, it's one of those things we don't know in that aspect of it. I'm going to disagree with Black Mamba on this one when he says Joe needs to restrain himself a bit more. I'm sorry, in the role that he plays, in the job that he does, you're going to pick up yellow cards. Now, I'm actually going to say were all of the yellow cards that he's picked up deserving? I would probably say maybe no in a few of them, but it is those things, and I just think, that's the sort of thing you're going to have in a midfielder. You're going to have a midfielder who's going to pick up these yellow cards. That's a fact in the job role that he's going to do. What we need to do is tell them not to maybe stop doing what he's doing, but get players in of an equal caliber of Julian, and so that if he is out suspended, we're not going to be punished from that aspect. So whilst I would love Julian not to pick up yellow cards, in the job role that he does, it's going to happen. Yeah, it's the same thing happened with, I would probably say, Joey Barton when he played for us, with Czech Teote when he's played for us. When you've got that sort of midfielder in that type of role, they're going to pick up yellow cards. It's just one of those things that's going to happen. And I just think asking him to restrain himself, you're going to be asking him to be not Joe Linton, and that's not something I could probably do.
Yeah, I mean, some of them might be a bit silly when he starts a bit fight with some other players, but yeah, I see your point. I agree. Often he's the one who breaks up transition plays, and he needs to take the easy yellow card just to prevent the goal scoring opportunity, and that I don't think you can remove from his game, and that's hard for all those kind of defensive type midfielders like the Casemiro, Fabinho's of the world, who they always seem to have a yellow card every game, and that's because of that like last kind of challenge before.
Yeah, John Gandhi's made a great point where he says we've been a soft touch for so many years, it's refreshing to see us with battlers fighting for the cause. That's exactly the case. Yeah, one, I think it probably is a little bit of passion in that aspect of it, because I think Eddie Howe probably has got the players with the mindset that they want to battle for him. But you also need that type of bite from a midfielder in that aspect of it. And not liking him to that, but like a Roy Keane type, that someone that's got that aggression in them, because that's what you need is in terms of the midfield aspect that you're going to be asking Jolin to do. So it's just one of those things. It makes it not, I would say, not a massive thing. Yeah, we've got Bruno coming in. We've got Sean Longstaff. It's a chance for either Elliot Anderson or Joe Willock to come into the side. I prefer Joe Willock just because I think he probably deserves it from that sense. But it is what it is. We're just going to have to look at doing what we need to do. But I do also think, with regards to the squad depth reality, a big point that I was thinking of in that aspect, in terms of that, is why not maybe look at keeping Danbury in the side of playing three at the back. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got that, but then if you've got three at the back, but you then put, let's say, Murphy and Target or something or whatever, do you know what I mean? It's just one of those things of looking at.
Yeah,
I'm not saying to do that, but I'm just saying we need to I think there needs to be more flexibility in terms of how we can approach games and how we can play.
I think that comes with more windows under our belt, to be honest. At the minute, it probably feels certain few players, and Dan Burns, one of those players, he seems like he can trust because he's not taking him out of his team, even when he's dipped in form. Samuel Wilson seems like he can trust him and he's not dropping him.
But let's say if you're looking at that and going, oh, well, Trippier needs a rest, but can I really trust Jacob Murphy as a full-on right back? Well, right, go 3 at the back, bring Matt Targett in, and then Jacob Murphy is like your wing back. So there's options that you could do. Now that also plays into the fact if it can also help if we're struggling with the midfield aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously likes playing with 3 midfielders because that gives often, because most teams do play with the 2-man midfield, and having 3, you generally gets more dominance of the midfield area, and the midfield area is the heart of the football field. So he obviously likes that, and I like to think that how thinks about this sort of different variations. I think his coaching staff probably have these conversations after hours and trying to figure out what to do. And but I know I have complete trust for him to figure it out. I mean, it's this first full season here, so he still needs some time to figure out what's the best plan going forward. And the team is still in developing stages. So I just want to see Isak start. So if he does that, I'm happy.
So even if he starts Matt Ritchie, Jacob Murphy, Jamal Lascelles, Paul Dummett, you're fine, just as long as Isak's starting.
Yeah, that worked fine. Matt Ritchie can still swing a good ball in, and Lascelles does win headers in the.
I can see a few of those leaving this summer though. Paul Dummett, Matt. So you got Paul Dummett, Matt Ritchie. Who else is there? Manquillo could possibly, I reckon, he could be leaving. So you've got a few players there who need to make way because we need more options.
So here's the question: Do you think it would be evolution or revolution in the summer transfer window?
Evolution,
definitely.
So you're going to say that we're not going to necessarily sign too many players?
Amanda Staveley always says it. She's got a long-term plan, hasn't she? It's not just panic and go into each window, off the cuff. Eddie Howe, months into his job, weeks into his job, and would have planned out the type of players he wants to sign and who he wants to build a team around. And it'll take window by window to stay within financial fair play. It's just he'll never, as we can see. We didn't bring in a midfielder. Did we? We let John Shelby go. We also let another striker go, Chris Wood. Yeah, they're not. John Shelby. Yes, Chris Wood only fills in if somebody else is missing out. But these are players who give you more options. And Chris Wood, sometimes he scored, like he scored that header away at Southampton. And then you got he scored a penalty last season. Then they got last season he scored that penalty because apparently takers at the club. So these are players who are not massive to the team, but they do give you other options because at the minute we're massively lacking it, and we didn't bring in another midfielder, and I felt like we should have in the window. So it'll take time, but we'll get there. This summer window, I feel like we might bring in another big marquee and then possibly bring in another 3 or 4, depending on how many go. But someone said Matt Ritchie for backroom staff. Why not? Why not? If we lose, wouldn't it? Or start kicking corner flags or something.
I remember Isaac Hedden raving about how good Matt Ritchie was in the back with like a lieutenant of Eddie Howe or something. It was interesting to hear from him.
In fact, the likelihood is Matt Ritchie probably someone who probably would end up, you think, going into like a coaching role, because you just think it's the sort of like mindset and mentality that he's got, that he just wants to help and improve people. So I'd love to see something like that. I'd love to see players like Ritchie and that, if possible, staying on it and doing that.
I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but Matt Ritchie always warms up with the starting 11. Every time I've gone to a home game, he's always warming up with the starting 11, while the subs are obviously warming up separately. I don't know whether that's because obviously he's literally up everybody's backside telling them what's what and stuff. But there's obviously a big part of the team vocally, because I haven't seen that before. Somebody who's not in the starting 11 feature in the warm up every single game. There's obviously a good reasoning behind that. I don't know if you've noticed it.
I have not.
Anybody else?
But I haven't been to too many home games this season. So.
Yeah, to be fair, you can only know because obviously they're not going to show that on television, are they?
No.
But yeah,
No,
I've noticed it warming up.
They barely show anything on television, to be honest. So. Doesn't even show the nice war flags displays anymore. So that's that.
So we're going to finish off, and I'm going to ask you to put your money where your mouth is and give me a prediction.
Right.
Where will Newcastle United finish at the end of the season?
It keeps changing. At the start of the season, it was 8th, and then it moved up to 4th, and then it went to 5th. At the minute, I'm gonna let Max go first. Go on, Max. You go first.
I think we'll finish where we are right now, 6th. I think that's the like the realistic goal, because if our form goes up again now, realistically it will go down again and probably be like up and down a bit, or if you find like a central line of maybe draws, wins, I think we will not have that like unbeaten run. I don't think we will get to that again, but something in the middle would be good, and also because our good first part of the season will be able to build on that. So, but I think also the Liverpool and Tottenham will probably be get ahead of us a bit too much. But I don't know.
Yes, but
yeah, I don't. But the thing is, this coming 4 or 5 fixtures is for me really important to see what's gonna happen, and if we can find a new way of attacking, or if we can find some new type of way to play Isaac, and then maybe we can score more goals, and But I think 6 is my bet.
I'll risk it, and I'll say I think we'll stay up. It'll be tough, but it'll be tough, but it'll happen.
As a Newcastle supporter for you. Stay up. We hit the 40-point mark, so that's good.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah. That's why I'm fairly confident.
26th. I think a lot of it depends also on if we actually have strikers who start scoring goals, because at the minute we can't seem to find one. At the minute we can't seem to find one. If that happens, then I think we'll finish 6th.
Yeah.
I think our home form will probably have a lot to say on that.
Oh, a lot of things will. A lot of things will depend on that.
Oh no, but I think predominantly the home form. If we can, other than the Liverpool defeat, if we can stay unbeaten at home and maximise on that, then that's something that should help us in good stead. The fact is we've still got Arsenal to come to St James's Park. We've still got Spurs to come to St James's Park. At the minute, we've still got Man U to come to St James's Park. So you're looking at that and you're going, still some decent teams that have still got it. Brighton have still got to come to St James's Park. I think that I'm sure. I'm just trying to, but I'm sure I've read that at the current top 8, we don't have to face anyone in the top 8 away between now and the end of the season.
Ooh.
Well, we've played Liverpool twice, like Man City twice.
We played Man City twice. We played Liverpool twice.
Man United once.
We played Fulham away. I think Brentford.
Chelsea. No, wait, they're 10th. Chelsea's 10th.
Chelsea's 10th. I think Brentford's either 8th or 9th. But I do think, it was that aspect in terms of the away aspect. I don't think we're facing any of like the top sides as it were. Maybe, if you want to include Chelsea in that, maybe one. But the away fixtures, but it's the home form, because if we are going to do that, we do need to pick up results at home against sides like Brighton like Man U, like Spurs, like
I hope
Arsenal.
we smash Man U.
we all do, but what we'll do is we'll leave it there. We will be back on Friday for the usual look ahead to Sunday's home game against Wolverhampton Wanderers, another one on Sky. So don't get sick of watching us on TV all these times. Give me a traditional 3 o'clock Saturday.
No, thank
you.
you.
You're going to be there, right, Mark? So
I will be there. No, yeah, but I prefer going at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, not 4 on a Sunday.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. It's just one of those things of like the romanticism is out of it. Yeah, you're not that bothered because you watch the games regardless anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, people who can't make it to the ground, then it's great that we're on television. Loads.
Yeah, well, that's not my fault, is it?
Oh,
It's not their fault. That really far away, but it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit far from here.
Well, anyway, see you on Friday, and thank you for watching.
Bye.